Okay, so I've been going on Twitter, posting pictures. Okay, so the past couple of weeks I've posted several pictures on my Twitter feed of things that I've built for my athletic training room. I want to take a few minutes and kind of get into the why. What's my thought process? Hopefully I want to start a discussion. So either in the comments of this video, tweet me, whatever. Even if that's, hey Josh, you're full of crap, you're stupid. Hopefully explain it a little better, but I want to hear your viewpoints, and I want to kind of explain mine. So in the last year and a half, one of the things that's been the biggest realization for me in human movement is the influence of gravity. And I know that sounds simple. Yeah, if we trip, we fall. But what I'm talking about is the context of the asymmetrical human body moving in space against the influence of gravity. And throw a shout out to the Posture Restoration Institute people for this. But the realization for me has been, how do we maintain relative dynamic reciprocal movement side to side once we get somebody off of the table? And then we stand them up, because we don't move on our back on a table, we move in 3 dimensions and we do it fast. So one of the biggest things for me has been the integration of some of their techniques, for hamstrings, obliques, these kind of things in a moving context. And how do I stand somebody up then and maintain pelvic stability, rib stability, shoulder girdle stability against the influence of gravity? Taking that to its logical next step, behind me I've got a mound, which I tweeted a picture of, homemade sheet of plywood, a couple of 2x4s, had some leftover turf in the ballpark. But pitchers specifically don't throw on flat ground. We have an influence of a slope. We know for a fact, research studies are out there, I can't cite them off the top of my head, that pitchers with decreased lumbopelvic control, especially increased lumbopelvic angle as they come set, are directly correlated with injury patterns in the shoulder and elbow. So if we are considering the influence of gravity in our rehabs, pitchers do theirs on a slope. They have to maintain lumbopelvic, core control, shoulder control while moving downhill. And I know nothing I can do in this context will replicate the speed, and it can't replicate uneven surfaces, kicked out dirt, those kind of things, but it does allow for some kind of lumbopelvic control on a slope. The second factor that figures into that for me is looking at things from a dynamic systems perspective. We don't move the same way twice. Brain may have an end goal, but the movement pattern is never exactly the same. So let's put that back in the gravity context. If I'm looking at this from a dynamic systems perspective, my end goal with a rehab progression, especially a late stage rehab progression, it shouldn't be to make somebody strong with a great TheraBand. My end goal should be to give that person resiliency or safety or stability, or whatever word you want to use that encompasses not being hurt, in the greatest degree or the greatest number of degrees of freedom possible. So I don't want them safe in one specific motion. They need to be able to control their body and be resilient through multiple degrees of freedom. Even if it looks like their motion is exactly repeatable, firing sequences are different, angles are slightly off, they need to be able to do it in the most number of degrees of freedom possible. And so my thought process, as I put some of this stuff together, the balls on bands, I know I had one comment about increased lateral epicondylitis. I haven't seen that yet. If it happens, we stop. But my thought process is each different grip of a pitch is a different pattern when the motion is carried out. so that should be trained. Other things that go through my mind on this, on a slope, we talk lumbo-pelvic control, whatever. So it would be perfectly rational to me, late stage rehab, if I'm doing a ball catch and working on those kind of patterns, dynamic stability, whatever, it would make sense for me to have that person in their finished position, let's catch. Because we're giving them resiliency in that case with a protracted scap, with a distracted glenohumeral joint, which is where the injury likelihood goes up. So if we can safely train them in a relatively unsafe position, we increase resiliency in that relatively unsafe position. Another thing that I've done is multiple of my other videos incorporate the heel sliders. So one of my thoughts, ball in the glove, and obviously you can make fun of my pitching mechanics because I don't have any. So get them in their set position. We're here, slide to our finish as we bring the arm through. Everything's coordinated, including using the hamstrings and the obliques to maintain lumbo-pelvic control against the influence of gravity going down a slope. I know I'm never going to replicate the speed, the intensity of the leg kick. They can't obviously do this if they have to control it. And with the type of surface this is, probably not the safest idea to have them, fully go through their motion in this environment. But it gives me the opportunity to basically work lumbo-pelvic stability with the context of gravity, in a dynamic system with the slope. So far, my personal experience has been this thing lights the hamstrings up. Whether that's beneficial long term or not, to be determined. So far, my guys that have used it really like it, but it's something new. And so kind of in closing, I just wanted to kind of ramble a little bit and explain why I think this potentially could be beneficial and kind of the context that led the idea to pop into my head. So feel free to comment, tweet at me, let me know what you think. If you think it's a good idea, if you think it's a bad idea, give me your reasons why. I'm looking to start a discussion.